Hello, everyone. At this point now, you are deep into the class. We're going to talk about Module 3 right now. This is halfway through the class once you're done this. So you're doing a great job. Hang in there. It's almost over. Hopefully you're getting a little bit out of it and you're seeing how the class works. And so my hope is that you're fairly comfortable right now. All right, module number 3, which is going to be about the idea of virtues and conflicts of interest. What I hope to help you think about during this module is what type of person, a journalist, reporter, anyone who's creating media content, what type of person we want them to be. That is, what are the virtues or characteristics that make for a good media creator. And of course, what's going to arise for many people sometimes is conflicts of interest. When people send you free stuff, in the hopes that you'll write a better review or recommendation for their stuff. Or if someone somehow sort of provide you with anything, not just stuff, in order to sway your opinion. Or if possibly you already hold certain beliefs and you are going to report on someone you disagree with, what happens then? Anyway, so that's what Module 3 is about. Module 3 takes place between Monday, September 24th and Friday, October 5th. And as usual, I have the links for you below. And everything is due by Friday, October 5th. Here's a little picture of a bunch of famous philosophers talking with each other. You can click on the link, take you to the Wikipedia page about it, or about philosophy in general. Anyway, not that you have to read that, that's just there. Hopefully you figured out that's what I do at this point. The reason I put that up is because we're going to read a very old philosopher, an ancient philosopher named Aristotle, which you might have heard of before. And so what I want you to start with, as far as your reading, is to read a book called the Nicomachean Ethics. Now, I'm not looking for you to read the whole book. I just want you to read what's called Book 2, or Chapter 2. So if you click on Nicomachean Ethics, we scroll down a little. There's this new interesting glitch that happens sometimes with these things. Anyway, click on Book 2, and here it is, Book 2. All right? And as you see, he's beginning to talk about the idea of virtue, what it means to be virtuous. And he'll say a number of different things. But what I want you to get at or learn, besides just reading some original stuff by Aristotle, is to begin to explore the idea of what it means to be a certain type of person, or to have certain virtues or character traits. So we all know, for example, how to speak honestly, right? To speak honestly, you simply need to tell the truth, right? But to be an honest person means something else. So let's think about this in the context of my son. Like, how would I raise him to be an honest person? He's not honest necessarily when he is first born or when he first starts speaking. He might tell the truth, but telling the truth doesn't necessarily make you an honest person. There's a difference here between being something and acting a certain way, right? We can all act a certain way. It doesn't necessarily make us that kind of person. So how would you become an honest person? Well, let's take the example of my son again. At first, right, what I do is I tell my son to always tell the truth. Whenever he's asked a question, he then thinks to himself, okay, Dad said tell the truth, so tell the truth. Later on, after he's done that for many, many years, he just sort of intuitively or instinctually tells the truth, even when lying might benefit him better. At that point, he has become an honest person. And hopefully you can begin to see there's a difference between the way we act versus sort of who we are deep down. And some of this, as Aristotle pointed out, is not just a matter of what you're born into, right? You need examples that you follow. You become a certain thing over time by working certain habits. Anyway, so that introduces the idea of virtues or characteristics that someone might have. And to drive this point home, what I provided is a link to an interesting acronym called JJ Did Tie Buckle, which is something they use in the Marines to define leadership traits. And so as you can see here, there's this outline of these are the different leadership traits you should have. And here's, it's called JJ Did Tie Buckle because it's the first letter of all the different traits. So we have justice, judgment, dependability, initiative, so on and so forth. You get it. So the idea here is you have all these character traits, leadership traits that you want to live up to, and it's not just about acting that way when you're seen, it's about repetitively building this habit of being that type of person. Eventually you become a person who has courage. You don't just act like you have courage, right? Courage is notoriously difficult to define, but you could imagine someone could act like they have courage and be very scared deep down inside. Not saying you shouldn't be scared, or that if you're scared you don't have courage, but sort of overwhelming fear and then acting in contrast to that isn't necessarily courage. Anyway, so I put this up here because what I'm looking for you to do for the homework assignments is to come up with what you think are good character traits for someone who creates media, not someone who is going to be a leader in the military. Now, some of these things might be crossover, right? You might think that integrity is something that a journalist should have or something like that, and that's fine, but I'm not looking for you to copy and paste this. I'm looking for you to come up with your own ideas about it, what it means to have integrity and so forth. And then I have some case studies that can show you where these virtues might come in handy when you encounter conflicts of interest. So these are case studies that are on the website for the Society of Professional Journalists. And the first, these are real examples. The first one is called Raining on the Parade. All right. And we have an example here of pretty straightforward conflict of interest. And all I want you to do is to read what's outlined here. And sometimes they'll ask you little questions, but those are rhetorical. You don't have to like answer them in the homework or something like that. So read Raining on the Parade. And here is another case study that deals with freebies, which I think is falls under the category of conflicts of interest. And you can read this case study. They're not too long, but they get you to begin to explore these different topics and to present you with real examples of how this pops up in everyday creation of media. And so once you're done with all that, I think you'll have a good sort of groundwork or foundation to begin exploring the question for homework. And so what I'd like you to do in 2 to 3 type double-spaced pages, answer the following questions. What are 6 virtues that you think a journalist, reporter, or any kind of media creator should have? So you don't just have to think about a journalist or reporter. You can think about someone who creates YouTube content. You can think about anyone who's creating any kind of media. Like, what characteristics do you think they should embody? And I want you to make sure to describe and define the virtues in your paper and reference some of the readings. So I see you're working with all the information there. And just like you've always done, there's various ways to submit it, upload, write it here. The rubric again is the same, so nothing new there. Pretty straightforward. And then for the discussion board post, instead of talking about all 6, I'd like you to list 3 and just briefly describe them. Again, 250 to 500 words. That's, a paragraph or 2 at most. And then respond to 3 other people. Hopefully you're very used to this at this point. Okay, that's it. As you can see, these videos are going much faster now because I'm having to explain less, and I think you're right on track. But as always, definitely email me with any questions, right? And I look forward to seeing what you come up with. QuickTime done.